The first thing Captain Elowen Vey noticed was the silence. Not the normal kind, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that swallowed meaning. The kind that made the inside of your skull feel empty, as if someone had scooped out every memory of sound and left you with nothing but a heartbeat and fear. The battlefield outside the ruins should have been roaring, engines, artillery, shouting, alarms instead. The galaxy held its breath. Elowen stood at the edge of a broken archway, dust clinging to the ornate silver plates of her armor, bright daylight washing the metal with a cold sheen. Her long pale hair braided tight so it would not catch on a blade, her right hand resting on the grip of her sword, fingertips exposed. By the gauntlet, because she trusted touch more than she trusted comfort. Beyond the archway, the wasteland stretched, sand-colored stone teeth rising from the earth. The ruins of a civilization that had once believed itself eternal, now just cracked pillars and half-buried halls, and in the middle distance, a formation of soldiers moved, human soldiers. They advanced through the rubble like a slow storm, helmets dusty, armor scratched, rifles ready, their mouths open now and then as if they were speaking. But Elowen heard nothing, no command, no call, no laugh, no curse, nothing. Her amulet, a dark emblem with a blue jewel at its center, vibrated faintly against her chestplate, as if it too was confused by the absence of sound. Elowen had fought in 10 systems and watched 3 worlds burn. She had seen dreadnoughts split open like fruit. She had watched people beg in 100 languages. She had heard the scream of space itself when a jump gate failed. But she had never seen an army walk in perfect silence. Then she noticed the reason, above. The formation, hovering like an invisible crown. A thin veil of distortion shimmered in the air, almost like heat, almost like a mirage. A silence field. The Dominion had used it for years. A weapon that did not kill bodies first. It killed coordination. It killed morale. It killed the tiny human miracle that was a voice calling another voice back. Elowen's people had a name for it. The quiet. The Dominion called it mercy, because the quiet did not explode your lungs or burn your skin. It only erased your last chance to be heard. Elowen's breath fogged inside her mask, slow and controlled. The mission was simple on paper. Escort a captured Dominion signal corps through the ruins. Deliver it to the human strike group. Watch the humans crack it open. Learn how to stop the quiet forever. Simple. But the quiet had found them first. Elowen scanned the ruins, her pale eyes narrowing. She searched for the telltale metal spine of a Dominion emitter. The thing that fed the silence field. The thing that made the universe feel like a sealed coffin. She saw nothing, only broken stone. Sand and the slow approach of human soldiers who could not hear their own footsteps. A hand signal flashed between 2 human officers, sharp and practiced. Elowen recognized the gesture for hold. She lifted her own hand in reply. 2 fingers to her brow, then down. A salute older than most empires. A human officer broke formation and walked toward her. Alone, careful, rifle down but ready. He was taller than she expected, broad shoulders, face streaked with dust, eyes scanning. The shadows with the focus of someone who had learned fear and refused to let it drive. He stopped a few paces away. His lips moved, and Elowen read the words. "Can you hear anything?" Elowen shook her head, then spoke anyway. Because habit was stubborn. Because dignity mattered. "No," she said, and heard nothing of her own voice. Only the soft inner vibration of speech without sound. A phantom echo inside her throat. The human officer watched her mouth, caught the meaning, then tapped the side of his helmet. A gesture that said nothing, just disbelief, just frustration. He looked back at the formation, then back at Elowen, then pointed at her chest, at the amulet. Elowen placed her gloved hand over the blue jewel. The jewel was warm, warmer than it should be, as if it had absorbed a sunbeam and refused to let it go. The human's gaze hardened, and he made a new gesture. 2 fingers toward his eyes, then toward her, then a circle. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Elowen stepped forward so the light caught the engravings on her breastplate. so he could see she was not a raider, not a mercenary, not Dominion. She formed the words carefully. "Captain Elowen Vey," she said. "7th Aurelian." "Guard," the human blinked. Then he reached into a pouch and pulled out a small slate, the kind used for quick translation. He typed, then turned it toward her. "We are tracking the signal corps you stole from the Dominion. We have to move before the quiet collapses our line." Elowen leaned in, her braids shifting across her shoulder plates. She replied aloud, slow and clear for his eyes. "We did not steal it," she said. "We took it back." The human read her lips, then typed again. "Does it stop this? Can it break the silence field?" Elowen almost smiled at the desperation in his posture. Almost she glanced toward the ruins behind her, to the cracked hall where her small team had hidden the captured corps. Then she looked back at him and shook her head. "Not yet," she said. "But it can teach you how." The human officer exhaled, shoulders dropping a fraction, relief mixed with fury. He typed again, faster than we need. "To move now. My people are blind in here. They cannot hear warnings. They cannot hear each other bleeding." Elowen's fingers tightened on her sword grip. She nodded once, then gestured toward the archway behind her. "Follow." He raised his hand and signaled his formation forward. The humans advanced, silent ghosts in armor, spreading through the ruins. Every step careful, every glance sharp. Elowen led them into the broken hall, down a corridor lined with eroded carvings, past toppled statues whose faces had been sanded away by time. Inside, her own team waited, 4 Aurelian guards, all armored like her, all pale-eyed and tense. Between them sat the Dominion Signal Corps, a cylinder of dark alloy and subtle curves, humming faintly through vibration alone, like a caged animal. The humans gathered around it. Reverent and hungry, the officer stepped closer, and for the first time Elowen saw the name strip on his chestplate. Miles Reyes. He looked up at her, then pointed at his own chest and spoke. Slow so she could read. "Miles," he said. Elowen answered with her name again. Then, without thinking, she let her expression soften. Not a tactical smile, not a manipulative smile. Just a human thing she had learned during the war. A small sign that said you are not alone in this. Her lips curved, just slightly, and in that exact instant, the entire galaxy went silent in a new way. Not just absence of sound, but absence of signal, absence of presence, absence of everything that traveled between living minds. Elowen's amulet flared, the blue jewel brightening like a sudden star. Miles froze, eyes widening all around them. Every human soldier stiffened, heads tilting as if they had heard something impossible, but they had not heard it with ears. They had felt it with the part of them that remembered lullabies, radios, shouted names, the way a voice could pull you back from the edge. Elowen's smile had touched something inside the quiet, a flaw, a crack, a sleeping nerve, and the quiet reacted like a wounded beast. The air rippled. The distortion veil above the ruins shuddered, then expanded outward in a violent pulse. Sand lifted off the ground in a ring, debris trembled, loose stones rattled, and even though no one could hear it, every body in the hall felt the shock of a soundless scream. Miles reached for his slate, but his hands shook. Elowen stepped back, eyes scanning, instincts screaming even in silence. Something had just changed. Something had noticed her. Then the Dominion arrived, not with ships, not with thunder, but with sudden presence. A step from nowhere into the corridor entrance, like a nightmare choosing a doorway. 3 Dominion sentinels, tall and jointed, armor fused to skin. Masks smooth and mouthless, their eyes hidden behind black glass, their blades unfolded. Quiet metal blooming into weapons. But the true weapon was the thought that pressed into every mind at once. Kneel, even without sound. The command was heavy. Like gravity doubling, Elowen felt it slam into her chest, into her throat, into her knees. The humans staggered, some dropping to one knee before they caught themselves, faces contorted, fighting an invisible hand. Elowen's guards braced, teeth clenched. Elowen locked her legs and refused to bend. She had fought Dominion mind pressure before. She knew how it worked. It found the part of you that wanted to survive and used it like a leash. She looked at Miles. Saw blood at the corner of his nose. Saw his jaw clenched so hard it trembled. The Dominion's thought sharpened. Give us the core. Give us the smiling one. Elowen's heart kicked hard. The smiling one, so that was it. Her smile had triggered the core, or the quiet, or both. And now the Dominion knew exactly where she was. Miles lifted his rifle, fighting the pressure, and moved in front of her without thinking, as if his body had decided before his mind could. Argue. Elowen's eyes widened, not at the gesture, but at the emotion behind it. Protection. A human instinct that did not ask permission. The Dominion sentinel stepped forward. Blade raised. Elowen's right hand drew her sword in one smooth motion, the metal whispering against its sheath, a sound she could not hear but could feel through. Her bones, she moved first, because in silence, hesitation was death. Her blade cut a bright arc, striking the sentinel's arm joint. Sparks bursting like tiny suns. The sentinel recoiled but did not fall, its armor too dense, its body too wrong. Miles fired. Plasma bolts slamming into the sentinel's chest, scorching but not penetrating. Another sentinel raised its hand, and the air itself seemed to compress. Elowen felt her vision dim, felt the quiet trying to push deeper, to turn their thoughts into mud, to turn their bodies into obedient statues. Her amulet flared again, blue light spilling across her armor. In the glow, Elowen saw something impossible. Thin threads of light, like invisible wires, connected the Dominion sentinels to the signal core. Not physical wires, not cables, something older. Something like a leash made of intention. The core was not just technology, it was a heart. It was a living conduit. And her smile had been the wrong key in the right lock. Miles tried to shout. She saw it in his throat. But no sound came. His eyes flicked from the sentinels to the core, then to her amulet, then to her face. And Elowen understood. He was asking. What Arn did not answer with words, because there was no time for explanation, only choice. She stepped backward toward the core. Blade up, guards forming a tight ring. The Dominion pressure increased. Kneel. Elowen felt her knees tremble, felt her lungs strain, felt panic claw at the back of her mind. Then she remembered why she had smiled. She had smiled because she saw fear in a stranger and refused to let fear be the last language between them. That was all. And if the Dominion could be wounded by something that small, then the Dominion was not invincible. Elowen placed her left hand on the signal core. The metal was cold, then suddenly burning. Her amulet pulsed, and a surge of images slammed into her mind, faster than thought. A Dominion chamber filled with silent priests, a field of conquered soldiers kneeling, mouths open, soundless, a human child crying with no voice, a star system dimming as if someone had turned down its light. Then, deeper, a truth. The quiet was not just a weapon. It was a promise the Dominion had made to itself long ago. No one would ever laugh at them again. No one would ever speak against them again. No one would ever call them weak again. So they built silence and called it peace. Elowen's hand shook, pain flaring up her arm. Miles stumbled closer, hand out as if he could pull her away. Elowen met his eyes, and she made a decision that felt like stepping off a cliff. She smiled again, not soft this time, not small, a smile like a blade, a smile like a challenge. A smile that said, "You will not take our voices." The amulet exploded with light. Blue fire raced along the threads between the core and the sentinels. The sentinels jerked, their masks turning toward her as if for the first time they could truly see. Then a soundless wave pulsed outward, and the silence field around the ruins cracked. Elowen felt it like glass breaking inside her skull. Miles' eyes widened as the world rushed back, not full sound yet, but the possibility of sound. The pressure lifting, the air feeling alive again. The sentinels staggered, their thought command wobbling, suddenly uncertain, suddenly less absolute. Miles shouted, and this time, Though faint, though torn, Elowen heard something, a rasp of voice. Now Miles roared, his voice shredded but real. The humans surged, rifles fired, Aurelian blades struck. The hall erupted into movement, into breath, into the messy miracle of people fighting together. One sentinel fell as two humans tackled its legs, another human slamming a plasma charge. Into its joint seam, the sentinel convulsed, sparks spraying, then collapsed. Another sentinel turned toward Elowen, blade rising for her throat. Elowen met it head on. She stepped in close, too close for the blade to swing cleanly. She drove her sword upward into the narrow gap beneath its mask. Where the armor met the neck, the blade punched through. The sentinel shuddered. Its black glass eyes flickered. Then it went still. The last sentinel backed away, not retreating. Out of fear, but out of calculation. Its thought pressed into the room, weaker now, more frantic. You are breaking the quiet. You are not permitted. Miles fired a final burst, striking its shoulder, forcing it to turn. And Elowen's guard finished it with a clean cut to the joint. The sentinel fell. For a breath, everyone froze, listening to the partial return of reality. A cough, a boot scraping stone, a groan of pain, a distant metallic clatter somewhere outside. Miles lowered his rifle, chest heaving, his voice raw. "What the hell are you?" he said, staring at Elowen. Elowen's fingers trembled on the core, her amulet still burning warm against her chest plate. She swallowed, trying to steady herself, trying to keep her voice from breaking. "I am Aurelian," she said. "My people were singers before we were soldiers." Miles' brow furrowed. "Singers," he repeated. Voice rough, Elowen nodded, eyes flicking to the ruined carvings on the walls, as if the stone could remind her who she was. "We used to weave emotion through sound," she said. "We could calm riots, heal grief, pull courage out of a crowd." She pressed her palm against the amulet, and the blue jewel dimmed slightly, like a tired eye closing. "The Dominion hated us," she continued, "because sound meant connection, and connection meant resistance." Miles' gaze softened, just a fraction, but his jaw stayed tight. "So your smile," he said, "that did this." Elowen looked away, shame and anger twisting together in her chest. "I did not know it would," she admitted. "I smiled at you because you looked like a man carrying too much alone." Miles stared at her, and something in his expression shifted, like a wall cracking. "Yeah," he whispered, and the word sounded like a confession. Outside, the air rippled again. The quiet was not gone, it was wounded. Elowen's amulet vibrated, warning. Miles raised his rifle, scanning the corridor. Then the signal corps began to hum louder, and the hum became something else, a rising tone that scraped against the ears. Elowen winced, her senses flaring. The corps was broadcasting now, not just to the Dominion, but to everything, as if it had. Then forced awake, as if it was screaming for its masters. Miles swore under his breath, voice still ragged. "They're coming," he said. "We have minutes." Elowen's guards gathered around her, faces tense. One of them, Lieutenant Sira, leaned in, eyes hard. "Captain," Sira said, "the Dominion will not stop until they take you." Elowen looked at Sira, then at Miles, then at the human soldiers, who were checking each other for wounds, who were talking now in broken voices, who were laughing shakily because sound had returned like a miracle. She felt something in her chest tighten, something that was not tactical, not strategic, something like responsibility. The Dominion wanted her, because she could break their silence, because she could make their greatest weapon fail. Elowen thought of her homeworld, of its quiet halls and old songs, of the children who had never heard music because the Dominion had taken it away. She thought of the human refugees she had escorted weeks ago, the ones who cried without sound, the ones who mouthed prayers into the void. She thought of Miles, standing in front of her without thinking, and she understood with a clarity that hurt. If she ran, the Dominion would chase. If she hid, the Dominion would hunt. If she surrendered, the Dominion would learn how to seal the crack forever. But if she fought the right way, if she did the one thing they feared most, she could turn. The quiet against them, Elowen stepped away from the core. Her sword lowering slowly, Miles watched her, wary. "What are you thinking?" he asked. Elowen met his gaze, steady now, voice soft but firm. "I am thinking about a weapon you did not know you had," she said. Miles frowned. "We have plenty of weapons," he said. "None that stop the quiet." Elowen shook her head. "I do not mean metal," she said. "I mean you." Miles stared, confused, and Elowen forced herself to speak faster. "Because the core's hum was rising, because time was shrinking. The Dominion cannot understand you," she said. "They cannot predict you." Miles let out a humorless laugh. "Trust me," he said. "Humans can barely predict humans." Elowen's lips almost curved again, but she did not let it become softness. "Not yet, exactly," she said. "They built silence to control minds, but your minds do not bend the same way." Miles' face hardened, and Elowen saw the soldier in him, the man who would grab an impossible plan and run with it if it meant survival. "What do you need?" he asked. Elowen placed her hand on her amulet, felt the warmth, felt the memory of song sleeping inside it. "I need you to give me a voice," she said. Miles blinked, then looked around. "We have comms," he said. "They're unstable." Elowen shook her head again. "Not machine voice," she said. "Human voice." Miles stared at her, then slowly understood. "You want us to talk," he said. "To sing." Elowen nodded, her throat tight. "The quiet works by cutting connection," she said. "It punishes coordination. It punishes shared rhythm. It punishes empathy." She swallowed, then said the truth. "My people's gift is resonance," she continued. "Emotion carried on sound, woven into the air, a net that holds minds together." Miles' eyes narrowed, and the intensity in his face grew. "And your smile triggered it," he said. "Because you connected to me." Elowen nodded again. "Yes," she whispered. Miles exhaled, long and shaking, then turned to his soldiers, raising his voice even though it hurt. "Listen up," he barked, voice scraping. "We're about to do something stupid." A few soldiers laughed, some coughed, some winced. But they looked at him, they listened. Miles pointed at Elowen. "This woman can crack the quiet," he said. "But she needs us loud." He paused, eyes scanning faces. Then he said it with force, with conviction, with that human talent for turning fear into a dare. "We are going to remind the galaxy what sound is," he said, and on the last word he pushed his voice hard. Almost a shout. Sound. Elowen felt the word vibrate through the hall, and something inside her amulet responded, like a sleeping animal lifting its head. A soldier near the back raised a hand. Voice thin. "What do we say?" he asked. Miles looked at Elowen, and for a second his expression was almost gentle, almost apologetic, as if he knew he was asking her to bleed in a new way. Elowen stepped forward, and her voice came out calm, clear, and trembling with something ancient. "Say the names of the people you refuse to lose," she said. The hall went quiet for a heartbeat. Then a human woman spoke, voice cracking. "My sister, Leon," she said. A man answered, eyes wet. "My son." "Jory," he said. Another voice, rough. "My mother, Aina." Then more voices overlapping, building, not shouting yet, but real, messy, alive. Elowen felt the resonance rise. It was not music, not exactly. It was love turned into sound, grief turned into sound, defiance turned into sound. The signal corps shuddered, as if the Dominion's technology did not know what to do with something so irrational. Outside, the air rippled. The Dominion was coming. Elowen lifted her hands, palms open, as if conducting a storm. The humans kept speaking, saying names, saying promises, saying memories, and Elowen began to sing. Not a song with words the humans would know. Not a performance, not a pretty melody. A battle song, a resonance pattern. A woven net of emotion that wrapped around every voice in the hall and tied them together. The blue jewel on her chest blazed. The quiet outside the ruins trembled. then pulsed back, trying to smother the sound, trying to choke it. But this time, the quiet metal wall, not armor, not shields, not tech, a wall made of people refusing to be alone. The first Dominion ship crested the horizon like a black blade, engines whining, and for the first time in minutes, the humans heard the sound of an enemy coming. A low roar that made their blood run cold, then a second ship, then a third. Then more. Miles' eyes widened, but he did not stop. He shouted his own name into the air, like a declaration. Then added another, "My father Raphael," he yelled, voice tearing. Elowen felt that name strike the resonance like a hammer. The quiet cracked wider in the distance. Dominion soldiers deployed, ranks of them, moving with terrifying precision. Preparing to flood the ruins, Elowen's guards raised weapons. But Elowen did not lift her sword, not yet. She sang harder, pushing the resonance until pain flared behind her eyes, until her chest felt like it might split. The humans raised their voices with her. Louder now, raw and imperfect and powerful. And then the impossible happened. The Dominion soldiers hesitated, not out of fear, out of confusion. Their masks tilted, their formations shuddered, as if the very concept of so many voices, so much connection, was something their minds could not process under the quiet's rules. Elowen's resonance struck the silence field like a wedge. The field fractured. A sharp sound snapped through the air as the quiet failed, like glass breaking, like a dam collapsing, suddenly. The galaxy was not silent anymore. Sound rushed back in a violent flood. Engines, boots, shouting, the wind through ruins, the crack of distant fire, the groans of wounded metal. Humans gasped as if they had been drowning and just surfaced. Miles laughed once, wild and disbelieving, then lifted his rifle and screamed. "Move!" he roared, and the word echoed off stone like a promise. Elowen staggered, knees buckling as the backlash hit her, the resonance tearing through her nerves. Sarah caught her by the arm, holding her upright. "Captain," Sarah cried, voice urgent. "You are burning out." Elowen swallowed, forcing herself to stay awake, forcing herself to keep the net woven, even as the Dominion tried to re-establish the quiet. She looked at Miles, and he was already moving, shouting orders, forming squads, setting positions. He ran back to her, breath ragged, eyes fierce. "We can fight now," he said. "We can actually fight." Elowen nodded, but her throat tightened. "With something else, something heavier than strategy, not just fight," she whispered. She touched her amulet again, and this time she felt its true shape. Not just an artifact, but a key, a transmitter. A legacy her people had guarded for centuries. It was a resonance beacon, a thing that could turn voices into a weapon. The Dominion could not silence, but only if it was fed, only if it was supported, only if it was carried by many minds at once, only if humans, with their stubborn, chaotic hearts, became its choir. Elowen looked up at the sky, at the Dominion ships circling like vultures. Then she did something that terrified her more than any blade. She spoke the truth out loud, with full sound, with full vulnerability, with full intensity. "I cannot hold this alone," she said. Miles stared at her, then nodded instantly without hesitation. "Then you won't," he said, voice steady. He turned and shouted to his soldiers. "Every voice counts," he roared. "You hear me? Every voice. Every voice." The words rang, and Elowen felt tears sting her eyes. Not from pain, though there was plenty of that, but from something she had not felt in a long time, hope that did not feel foolish. The Dominion ships fired, lances of energy striking the ruins, explosions hurling dust and stone, the ground bucking underfoot. Humans scattered, firing back. Aurelian guards moved like silver shadows, blades flashing, rifles snapping. Miles' voice cut through it all, harsh and alive. Elowen planted her feet, braced against the shockwaves, and sang again, louder, deeper, pulling every human shout, every command, every cry, every name into the resonance net. The quiet tried to return, a pressure crawling back. Into the air, Elowen felt it like cold fingers reaching for throats. But the humans pushed back with sound, with rage, with laughter. With the messy truth of being alive. A Dominion drop squad hit the ground at the edge of the ruins, soldiers pouring out, moving with deadly precision. Weapons raised, they advanced into the sound, and Elowen watched their movement start to falter. As the resonance struck them, the Dominion was built on control, on uniformity, on obedience. They could not handle a battlefield where chaos was not weakness, but strength. Miles ran to a broken column and climbed it, ignoring incoming fire raising. His rifle like a banner, Elowen saw him open his mouth to shout. Then he paused, he looked at her. And in the middle of destruction, he smiled, not soft, not small. A human smile that said, "We are still here." Elowen's chest ached, and she answered with her own smile, the one that had started all this. The resonance surged, the silence field collapsed fully, shattering outward in a wave that rolled across the valley, across the ruins, across the horizon. In the far distance, comm signals flickered back to life. Distress calls, allied chatter, panicked Dominion commands. The galaxy could hear itself again, and when the Dominion realized what had happened, their response was not anger first, it was fear, because they had built an empire on silence, and a single smile had proven silence could be broken. A Dominion commander's voice crackled over open channel, distorted but audible, barking in a harsh language. Contain the beacon, kill the singer, kill the human commander, bring back the core. Elowen felt the order like a target painted on her skin. Sira yelled, "They are focusing on you." Elowen nodded, jaw clenched. "I know," she said, and her voice shook. Not with fear, but with exhaustion. Miles leapt down from the column and sprinted toward her, bullets snapping past, dust spraying. He slammed into cover beside her and shouted, "Listen," he said, "you need to get out." Elowen shook her head, hair braids swinging. "If I leave?" "The quiet returns," she said. "Your people die silent." Miles' eyes flashed, and he grabbed her forearm firm, urgent. "Then we bring the fight to them," he said. "We take that core and your beacon, and we jam it down their throat." Elowen stared at him, breath catching. The plan was insane, it was reckless, it was human. And it might be the only way. Another explosion rocked the ruins, stone raining down. Miles shouted to his nearest squad. "Core team on me," he yelled. "Guard her, keep talking, keep talking." Humans shouted names again, yelled memories. Cursed, laughed, cried, anything to keep the resonance fed. Anything to keep the net alive. Elowen's guards formed a moving wall, silver armor flashing. Blades cutting down Dominion soldiers who tried to get close. They pushed through corridors and broken halls, dragging the signal core on a grav sled, the device humming like a furious heart. Outside, Dominion ships strafed the ruins, trying to crush them under rubble, trying to bury the sound. But sound was not a thing you could bury once it escaped. They reached an open courtyard, a cratered circle surrounded by half-collapsed pillars, the sky visible above, wide and harsh, a Dominion emitter tower rose at the far end, a sleek spine of dark alloy embedded into ancient stone, feeding the quiet across the valley. Elowen felt it now, the source, the throat of silence. Miles pointed at it, eyes blazing. "That," he shouted, "that is the thing that made my people die unheard." His voice broke on the last words, and Elowen felt the resonance flare. Fueled by grief, Elowen stepped forward, singing, her amulet burning. Miles and the humans charged with her, rifles firing, voices shouting. Dominion soldiers poured from side tunnels, trying to block them, blades flashing, but the humans moved. With a kind of ferocity that did not come from training alone. It came from finally being able to hear each other again. A human soldier beside Elowen took a hit and went down, screaming, a real scream, loud, painful, alive. Elowen's heart clenched, and she wanted to stop, to help, to mourn. But the soldier's friend grabbed him and shouted, "I got you," and dragged him back. "I got you." Those words hit Elowen like a hammer. and she sang harder, turning them into strength. They reached the base of the emitter tower. Miles slammed a charge onto the alloy, then looked at Elowen, his face filthy, his eyes bright with desperation. "Can you do it?" he demanded. "Can you break it?" Elowen placed both hands on the tower, felt the cold metal, felt the quiet pulsing like a heartbeat inside it. She closed her eyes, and for a moment she heard her homeworld. She heard songs in golden halls. She heard laughter. She heard the voice of her mother telling her that emotion was not weakness. It was power. Then she opened her eyes and spoke, and when she spoke her voice was not gentle. It was commanding. Enough, enough. The resonance surged from her amulet into the tower, flooding it with human sound, with names, with shouts, with the refusal to kneel. The tower vibrated, whined, and the quiet screamed back, trying to crush her mind, trying to erase her. Elowen's vision blurred, tears streaming. Her teeth clenched, blood on her tongue. Miles stepped closer and shouted directly into the resonance, his voice like a blade. "We are not your silence," he roared. "We are not your silence." The humans behind him echoed it, dozens of voices, ragged and furious. "We are not your silence." Elowen felt the tower buckle, felt the quiet fracture, felt the Dominion's entire structure of control shatter at the point of impact. The emitter tower split, dark alloy cracking, light spilling out like trapped lightning. Then the charge Miles had placed detonated. The blast threw Elowen backward, her armor slamming into stone, air knocked from her lungs, ears ringing. She lay on her back staring at the sky, breathing in dust, hearing everything, shouting, gunfire, wind, her own heartbeat. The quiet was gone, not wounded, not cracked, gone. Miles stumbled into view above her, limping, smoke trailing from his shoulder plate, face pale. He dropped to one knee beside her and grabbed her hand tight, like he was afraid she might fade if he let go. Elowen blinked up at him, dizzy. "Is it over?" she whispered. Miles laughed once, broken, disbelieving, then shook his head slowly. "No," he said, voice thick, "but now the galaxy can." Scream back. Elowen's eyes filled again, and this time she did not fight the tears, because for the first time in years, she could imagine children hearing music again. She could imagine soldiers calling for help and being answered. She could imagine the Dominion hearing the voices of every species they had tried to silence. All at once, Miles leaned closer, voice dropping, intense. "You smiled at the wrong soldier," he said, almost accusing, almost grateful. Elowen's lips trembled, and she managed a faint smile, "or the right one," she whispered. A burst of chatter crackled across open channels, allied fleets picking up the absence of the quiet, commanders realizing what had happened, what had changed. A human voice came through, shocked, loud, alive. "This is Fleet Command," the voice shouted. "Repeat. Silence field is down." Elowen closed her eyes and listened. The galaxy was not quiet anymore. It was furious, it was waking, it was alive. Miles squeezed her hand and spoke, and when he spoke the words carried weight, promise, and a hunger for justice. "They will come for you," he said. "They will come for all of us." Elowen opened her eyes and stared at the sky, pale and hard. "Let them," she said, and her voice was steady. Miles' expression sharpened. "What?" he asked. Elowen's amulet pulsed weakly, like a heart that had survived a wound and refused to stop. "We will not run silent anymore," she said, and then she lifted her voice. Not screaming, not singing, but declaring, "We will be heard, we will be heard." Around them, humans repeated it. Aurelian guards repeated it, voices rising, echoing through ruins, through open air, through cum lines. Through space itself, "We will be heard" in the distance. Dominion ships began to retreat, not because they were losing the battle, but because they had lost the foundation of every battle they had ever won. Silence. Miles looked down at Elowen, and his eyes were wet, and his voice was quiet but fierce. "Captain," he said, "you just started a war." Elowen smiled again, tired, painful, honest. "Good," she said. Now we finish it with a song.